Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be working on this vintage Great Western Railways 060 steam locomotive from Hornby. This is a locomotive which I picked up on eBay along with a whole bunch of other British locomotives, and when we tested this thing out, things did not seem to be so great for it. Unfortunately, it wasn't turning over whatsoever. It had a short circuit, there was smoke coming from the motor, so there's clearly something quite wrong with it. I don't exactly know what, I don't even know if it's fixable or not, but we're going to have a go at it today, and if we're lucky, we might be able to get this thing riding the rails once again. So I'll quickly take it over to the track, I'll show you all what exactly it's doing, and then we'll get started with it. So let's begin. So since this thing is probably seized, I'm not going to give it power for very long, but just to demonstrate what it's doing, if we give it power, you can see immediately it's pulling over 3 amps. So there's clearly something very wrong with it. So we'll take it back over to the workbench, we'll crack it open, and we'll see if we can figure out why exactly that is. So I've never worked on one of these locomotives before, but I did just so happen to notice that there is a screw here, so I'm going to try undoing that, and then I suspect the shell will pop right out. Okay then, so I'm not sure if this is actually how you're supposed to take this apart or not. Either way, that screw doesn't seem to be doing anything, so I think we're going to have to try to figure out another way to get this apart. Okay then, there we go. So we're now inside to some extent. I don't know if we remove this, we might be able to get this to drop out. I'm not 100% sure here. I'm really just taking guesses at this point, but what we need to do is get down to the motor. That is the #1 goal here. And there we go. Anyways, right off the bat, everything looks fine, but the question is the motor seized? And it wouldn't appear to be. So the smoke that was coming from this motor was got to be from one of two things. It's either the commutator or the coils. Now, the coils do look burned, which is a sign that this motor might have overheated, but I would say 9 times out of 10, it's the commutator. So we're going to open this up, we'll clean this out, and then we'll try giving it power, and hopefully the commutator is the source of the problem, because if this thing needs a new motor, that's not the most complicated thing to do, but really you want to avoid replacing parts if you can, obviously. I'm also not so sure if that's supposed to be loose, so that could be another sign of trouble. But anyways, let's get these brushes out and see if we can clean up the commutator. Yeah, it's not such a great sign. The commutator actually already looks quite clean, so this might have a bad motor. It doesn't really feel like the magnet's good. I wonder if somebody tried to service this at some point and maybe messed around with it. So what's strange here is that the magnet actually still has a little bit of strength. It's certainly not as strong as it can be, but I've never seen that completely demagnetize both sides, so I don't know if maybe somebody flipped this magnet around and that's what's causing issues. It still doesn't really seem like there's much pull there. Now here's one potential source for a problem. I didn't see whether or not this was actually insulated when I first opened it up, and you have to have at least one of these arms isolated. So I'm going to grab some heat shrink tubing and we'll just quickly fix that. It should go without saying that this motor needs to be serviced either way, but if the whole thing is already junked, then there's not, a point of really doing anything. So at this point, we just need to figure out if this motor actually runs or not. Alright, well, it's running. It does not seem to be in great shape. There's full power right there, and yeah, it's like doing okay, but it's certainly not good. We'll clean up the commutator and everything else, and maybe that will help make it a little more powerful. So we'll just take all these parts back out here, and we'll clean them all up. I mean, obviously, if the commutator is dirty, the motor is not going to run as well as it could. that sounds a lot better. Well, it's definitely a little bit stronger. It's not night and day, but that certainly helped it out a lot. So I think at this point, all we can do is, oil the whole thing up, throw this back inside the locomotive, and hope for the best. Otherwise, I think we're going to have to look into somehow replacing this motor. Still too low torque to fully start. Let's try adding oil to everything. I'll add a little bit of grease to this, but I don't want to add too much because it will actually strain the drive, especially since these are plastic parts. Oh, it's trying to go, it's just really weak. So I think we'll throw the shell back on it, we'll put it on the track, and then we'll just hope for the best. Alright, moment of truth. So what do all of you think? Do we have a runner on our hands, or do we have a dud? Let's give it some power and find out. Okay, it's picking up power, but it's not moving. Let's try flipping the direction. Oh! Tried to go. Gee, it just doesn't want to stay running. Uh-oh. Okay, well, I think that motor is unfortunately done for. We do not have a runner, so back over to the workbench. So I don't really know what to call that other than a fail. I mean, that really did not work out well. I'm not entirely surprised with how weak that magnet is. But in any case, the question now is, can we replace this motor with something else? I don't really know what would be a good fit. I mean, these are not the most uncommon motors out there, but yeah, we'll see what I have. Now, here's the first thing which came to mind. This is a Japanese motor. This was out of another project, the T43 I was working on a while back. This motor is good. I just don't know, how we could really mount something like this, or if the shaft is long enough. But I think there is, a decent chance that this might be able to fit onto there. So we'll, I guess we'll try removing it. They're not quite the same size. Yeah, that's not going to work. So I've searched through my spare parts, and I really can't find anything which seems to be the right size for that worm gear. So we're going to try something a little bit unconventional. This is really a ditch effort at this point, but we're going to try to put some heat shrink tubing on the end of this motor right here, and we'll see if we can get it to fit there. That seems pretty snug. Well, it's turning straight, so that's really what's important. I don't know if it's tight enough on there that it could actually, make this engine run, and there isn't really, a way to make this long enough for it to be exactly, I think, where that gear is supposed to be. But I think at this point, we'll just wire it up and just see if it will work. So I've got my locomotive all wired up here. Now the question is, will this all actually work? That's promising. I think that there's some potential there. I just need to get some hot glue so that we can actually glue this motor down, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so we're going to try to secure the motor in place using hot glue. I wrapped the motor itself up with some tape just so that the hot glue will do a bit of a better job, hopefully grabbing onto the motor. Because the metal on the motor is not very porous, so I don't know how well it would hold on. I'll just try to hold that in place and hopefully this will work. Well, it seems secure, at least secure enough hopefully to keep it in place. So I think at this point we'll throw the shell back on this locomotive and take it over to the track, see if it actually works. Alright, moment of truth here, folks. Alright, well, I think it's time to see if whatever I've rigged up is actually going to work. You know, I think it is promising, but you know, nothing's guaranteed with this stuff. So let's give it some power, and oh, that seems half decent. Yeah, how would you look at that? Let's see, will it make it an entire lap around the layout? Well, not quite, but it didn't really stop. Yeah, it seems to be running half decent. Absolutely fantastic. Well, I think at this point it's safe to say I think we've got a runner. Now, a while ago, I was sent this Bachmann branch line stuff, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to try it out for the first time. Well, I think that those look absolutely excellent behind this locomotive. Huge thanks to HO Scale Modeler who originally sent them in. Anyways, let's take this thing for a spin. Well, folks, I think that's going to be about it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm overall thrilled we were able to get this locomotive going again. You know, when we found out that that motor was completely junked, I thought that that might have been it for this engine. But it just goes to show you sometimes you've just got to come up with a kind of out-of-the-box, quirky solution, and it will get these running again. I mean, not that it's by any means perfect, but the goal was to get the engine running, and it did just that, so I will call that a success. But anyways, with that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'd like to thank you all so much for watching.